Atule, thank you so much for your time. Now, earlier you spoke to the MEC for Education, just giving you that highlight about, calling for a safe passage for health workers because they are struggling to get to work safely. And of course, Tygerberg Hospital being affected. Just talk to us about the very latest now.
Well, indeed, when we're speaking to the MEC or the Minister for Health in the Western Cape, was talking to us about the extent of this stay away, saying, of course, that they had to open up some of their old age homes so that some of their healthcare workers can sleep there overnight, because some of them fear for their lives going into the townships, as well as the threat that emergency services personnel are faced with going to communities to offer medical services. This has been happening ever since this stay away strike has happened. We see a lot of dynamics around it, and what we see now is that it is playing in the political terrain. It is also playing out in the terrain of the constitution as well, in the representation or misrepresentation of the law as well. So these are some of the issues that we want to highlight. The Minister of Transport, Mr. Nosiviwe, coming out to say those vehicles were legally impounded by the city of Cape Town and therefore they must be released. These are some of the things that I want us to be discussing right about now. But what I can tell you is that the situation here in Cape Town and in the Western Cape has subsided a bit today, because yesterday it was quite catastrophic. We understand that 2 people were shot dead. One was a victim of robbery who shot at the assailants, killing 1 and wounding 2, and another guy was someone who was transporting staff who caught himself in that particular matter. But I will be joined by the member of Mayoral Committee for Urban Mobility, Mr. Rob Quintas, to talk to us about maybe the legislation part of this whole debacle. We see a lot of dynamics in this debacle. Minister Nosiviwe say you misrepresented the National Land Transport Act and therefore you need to release those illegally impounded vehicles, as per her words.
So the provisions in the NLTA, or the National Land Transport Act, really drill down to provincial level in what one sees in the operating license plan, operating licenses, which are attributed to people in the minibus taxi industry as well as in the e-hailing and meter taxi space. So the city has been enforcing according to the conditions of the operating license as directed by the provincial government. I believe that where the misunderstanding from the minister's side potentially may lie is in the context or the way that it is applied. So the NLTA prescribes that impoundment may be utilized as a way of enforcing various conditions, and that is prevalent as well in the provincial conditions of the operating licenses. So it's not a must, it's a may. The City of Cape Town, as you know, has a zero tolerance approach to anything that puts commuters within that form of public transport or other road users in danger. So anything that the city feels is a directly impactful on commuter safety, that has faced the maximum penalty available. So it doesn't say can only fine, it says may impound. So in certain instances, the city has impounded according to what is prescribed and provided to us by the provincial conditions of operating licenses and within the NLTA itself. The NLTA speaks to may, the city has, and we have done so in the best interest of road safety and, most importantly, commuter safety.
It seems like this is one of the conditions of the ongoing negotiations there. I understand you are not part of those negotiations at the moment. So for him to come out to make that proclamation to the city that you need to release those vehicles, surely it's one of the conditions of those discussions. Talk to us about how many vehicles have been impounded since last week, since this has started, and also what are you planning to do after someone who presides over this NLTA has made that pronouncement?
So just to answer some of the comments that you made, firstly, the releasing of impounded vehicles is not a directive that can be made by the Transport Minister, nor is it even a compelling instruction that can come from the Mayor of Cape Town. The traffic courts which is part of the National Prosecuting Authority. They are, in fact, the custodians of the particular laws around traffic infringements and reasons for impounding. And the city is very much committed to going through with a fine-tooth comb with the minibus taxi industry the various impoundments that have taken place and looking at those which we have referred to as minor transgressions, whether it be if it's the case of maybe smoking in a vehicle and the condition of the tail light or reflector. We're willing to sit down and go with the taxi industry, hold hands, look through that list, and then identify those, and then approach, the mayor will then approach and do an appeal to the traffic courts and the NPA to release those vehicles and waive the impoundment fee. The fine will still be applicable if it requires a fine penalty. That's what we've put on the table. But it's not a simple case of a decision made by a minister or a decision made by a mayor. This is a legislative process guided by law.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Member of Mayoral Committee for Urban Mobility, Mr. Rob Quindas, saying this is a legislative process guided by law. They will look at those cases by case on their merits and see which some of the vehicles can be released based on the merits that they will be looking into. As I said, that this matter of the taxi violence in Cape Town has now devolved in a constitutional or legislative framework right about now.